Of the Evander Kane saga is ongoing, and the San Jose Sharks have placed him on waivers. We will be joined by JD Young of Locked On Sharks to talk about that and more coming up on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. So glad you could join us, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Right now, it's my pleasure to welcome in the co-host of the Locked On Sharks podcast. He is Eklund approved and ready to go. JD Young. JD, how are you today? Great to have you here.
Doing well. Can't complain right now. So yeah, good. I'm glad that I was not banned after my last appearance on the national show. So.
Well, look. Let's start with this nice win for the Sharks last night. More of the same, I guess, in a lot of games, in the fact that their best player was their goaltender.
Yeah, it's something that's been a long time since you could say that about the Sharks, where their goaltending has been their best part of the team. You know, they've struggled to score goals. Timo Meier led the way with 2 goals, and he's been absolutely on fire to start the season. But James Reimer has, he came in to be the backup to Adin Hill, and he has outright just taken the crease away from Adin Hill. And the way he's playing right now, you can't argue with the results. A shutout here. I mean, he got pulled against the Leafs, but that was more of a message to the rest of the team because they were just playing poorly. But you could argue he's been their best player, and I wouldn't call you crazy so far this season. So.
Yeah, no, he has been a very big surprise, and one of the reasons that the Sharks are in the thick of the playoff hunt right now, in spite of everything that's happened to them this year. One of those things, obviously, the Evander Kane situation, their leading scorer from a year ago, and the Sharks placed him on waivers. I'm assuming this means that's the end of the line for Kane in San Jose.
Yeah, so they placed him on waivers. I would be honestly shocked if anybody claimed him, but I mean, you guys will know more by the time you probably hear this. But so he'll be reporting to the San Jose Barracuda. His agents already come out and said that they're happy to report to the Barracuda. It seems like that they're working on a trade as well. Kane does have a 3-team no trade list or whatever, but I think in this situation, both teams or both parties would be happy to kind of start fresh from here. But there is reports that an Eastern Conference team is kind of digging into it right now. The Sharks have also said that they'd be willing to retain salary for the next, half his salary for the next 4 years, because he's got 4 years, $28 million left on his contract. But I don't know what the Sharks would have to do to potentially sweeten the deal. I've heard a first-round pick, which doesn't seem like a very smart thing, especially for a team that's retooling right now. And those, first-round picks, especially in this year's very deep draft class, seems like a bad idea to attach to that. So for now, though, it seems like Kane's going to go to the Barracuda and play down there with all the children right now. And they'll my guess would be he doesn't get back on the Sharks at all this season, and they'll kind of either buy him out or see what happens this offseason. So,
as far as the trade goes, do you have any idea who that Eastern Conference team may be?
All we've heard is it's not the Rangers. But I mean, you could look for any team that's trying to add. I mean, if just talking about his on ice, he's a very capable player who, is going to instantly boost your top 6. He definitely, last year he was easily the Sharks' best player. He cut down on his penalties, was, a force in front of the net. But again, there's just so much. And this isn't the first time with Kane. He got run out of Buffalo. He got run out of Winnipeg. Like, this is it's the same kind of thing with him. And it seems like every time you're done with one story, another one kind of crops up with him. So, I think it's just whatever team is willing to kind of risk it all to try to win this year. So, I don't know if maybe like the Hurricanes, who just kind of come to mind with after signing Tony DeAngelo this offseason, they adding Kane to that team would just be the kind of cherry on top if you're trying to look for a Stanley Cup contender. But I think it has to be a veteran-laden team that's trying to win the cup right now would be my suggestion for that. So,
Yeah, I mean, my Islanders come to mind when you say that description, even though, this start to the season hasn't been what they had in mind. But they certainly could use the scoring punch. The question is whether or not they'd be willing to take on that personality.
Yeah, and it's you hear the whispers and rumors that he isn't very well liked in the locker room. Like Tomas Hertl is probably one of the most beloved players in Sharks history, and when he's basically just like, you have to trade this guy or get rid of me, and just all the other players have been kind of saying like, wow, this is the most fun we've had this start the season. This is great. We should keep playing like this. It sends a message to the one guy who's not there, that what, I think we're better off without you, even though you could help us on the ice. You're just not worth it.
Sharks now on a 5-game road trip. They started off with the win in Chicago. How important is this road trip to keeping this team in contention for a playoff spot?
It's very important because this is they're starting to ease into a little bit of the softer part of their schedule. They've had, 2 long road trips to begin with this season. And then, they've played some really tough competition so far, and they've hung around against some of these teams. But, the December schedule does kind of even up. I think they play like 9 games at home, or like 9 or 10 games in the state of California. So it's against some much lesser competitions like your Vancouvers of the world. But, it'd be nice to come out of here with, 3-2, potentially 4-1. And then that really kind of throws you back into the playoff race, especially in a Pacific division that's kind of been a lot better than most people expected, myself included. So
what is the key for this team as far as, they are a little inconsistent. You're on a bit of a winning streak right now, or 3 out of 4. But, when this team does what, do they mostly win hockey games? What is the key to their success?
It's actually their team defense, which is something that has struggled the past couple of years. When they're able to kind of keep teams from shooting in front of the net, keeping those high danger chances down, that's when you see them have their most success. And then the jump from Martin Jones to James Reimer this year, where you just have not just competent goaltending, but actually like really good goaltending. You can see that with the team where they're just not having to like so worried about making that back-breaking mistake, and then Martin Jones just let you down. And I think that their team defense really is the key to it, and how they're able to play as a unit. They still struggle with like their transition games and getting hemmed in, but like when they're able to limit the other team from taking those high danger chances, and then guys like Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, Logan Couture, if they're leading the offense, that's been their key to success. And whenever they get some sort of depth scoring, that's when you see those like 5-6 goal nights from the Sharks, like they had against the Senators the other night.
Is there enough depth goal scoring on this team without Kane?
To make a serious run, no. To squeak into the playoffs, maybe. I mean, you're looking, Timo, Hertl, and Couture all on pace for 30-goal seasons right now. Dahlin has, already 7 goals as a rookie, and probably could have 10 right now if he a couple that got robbed by just, Hellebuck doing Hellebuck type things. But yeah, they're going to be interesting at the trade deadline if they really want to make the playoffs, if they're going to be a contender, or if they want to like try to add pieces. Or there's a lot of big names out there. Like they could trade Tomas Hertl, and he's probably the belle of the ball at the trade deadline, and get an absolute haul for him. So they're going to be interesting to see. I think this December is going to be really important to how the Sharks' future, not just short term, but their long term future is, depending on how December goes.
Yeah, should be very interesting. And JD, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find you on social media and where they can find your podcast?
You can find me at my fire hole on Twitter, where I post all the fire memes. William Eklund approved and followed. So take that, everyone else. But you can find the podcast Locked On Sharks at all social medias. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast. So Apple, Stitcher, et cetera, and on YouTube. We're chugging away towards 450 subscribers. So make sure you guys follow us along there. We've been posting some of our old interviews as well too on YouTube. So good times there. Absolutely. Well, thank you, JD, so much for joining us today. Thanks, Gil, for having me. And I hope we'll make it 3 times. All right. It's here, the best Monday of the year, Cyber Monday. And Built.com is the place to aim your mouse
Get at least 20% off everything delicious and healthy. That's 20% off site-wide and even bigger discounts on Built Boost, Broth, and Built Swag. A brand new Built Bar flavor has just landed in time for Cyber Monday, Caramel Almond Delight. It delivers everything it promises. Caramelized onions, caramelized chocolate, check. Almonds, check. Delightful, double check. Be sure you get yours before they're gone. Just 150 calories and 17 grams of protein. And this season, maybe you're craving white chocolate. For a limited time, get a special now Built Bar Puffs flavor white chocolate cheesecake. The yummy protein treat filled with marshmallowy center covered in white chocolate. Only 140 calories and 17 grams of protein. 'Tis the season to save and to give your taste buds the gift of Built Bar. Get to Built.com for these incredible tasting new bars and 20% off everything. Head to Built.com, enter the code LOCK20 before it's too late.